Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Long Shots, our weekly podcast where me and Sharad I know we can always put this business finance kind of framework, but I think we just chat about stuff like that we find interesting during the week. And we are hoping to do that again this week as well. And before we go down that road, a friendly reminder to all our listeners, do check us out on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and pretty much any podcast app that you regularly use. Do check our channel, search for Long Shots, and then subscribe so that you get that nice little notification every time we go live. And yeah, I think with those initial reminders in place, this is Nikhil Arora and I have with me Sharad. Hi Sharad, what's up?
Not much. I always look forward to Thursdays and I say that every time, but it's a lot of fun to chat.
I think 7 days is long enough for people to not find it monotonous, and I enjoy it as well. So yeah might as well, right?
Yeah. It's like the dedicated space where you can chat officially.
Yes, exactly. And what a week, man. And in terms of global macro trends, of course, I yesterday saw Trump's video while he was making the State of the Union address, and I think he said how there are more women in Congress than there ever were, and then everyone, although reluctantly in the beginning, joined hands. All the women got up, started clapping. It was like a rare bipartisan moment.
Orchestrated.
I don't know, orchestrated, yeah, maybe. I think keep on hearing of different international players who want to leave India now. WhatsApp apparently is ready to exit.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you caught that. With 200 million users in India, do you think they are going to leave?
No, it's all optics.
Yeah.
But the narrative of foreign companies or international US-based companies showing some kind of fatigue by lack of support from the political regime or from the business ecosystem. You can see some, I guess, logic to that, but I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. I think this is when I think this is because of the end-to-end encryption rules that they don't want to break. Yeah, and the government wants them to kind of share information, avoid fake news, all that narrative. And I also understand, as per Morgan Stanley, Walmart wants to exit Flipkart.
Yeah, that's
after paying 16 billion.
Yeah, less than a year, right? Almost a year, I guess. But that again, I mean, the rules have changed. They've changed the goalposts once the game started, and the goalposts have changed now with the new e-commerce rules. So I can see where that logic is coming from, but I don't see it happening. And
vehemently denied by current Flipkart CEO, obviously.
Yeah. And when it comes to sort of WhatsApp and fake news, here's a question for you. Is fake news and lynching based on sort of WhatsApp, unverified forwards, do you think it's a WhatsApp problem or is it an India problem?
I think it's a people problem, yeah.
It's a people problem, right? Yeah. It's not a company problem. I mean, it's just a distribution channel at the end of the day.
But it's a very interesting point that you made, because a lot of people just take what they see on WhatsApp because it comes from a person. It doesn't just come randomly. It comes from like a friend or a relative. If a message is forwarded, a lot of people take it seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's unverified information, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen those open letters? The entire text is now put on a WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
People forward it. It goes viral, right?
Yeah.
And I guess just everybody doesn't have the energy to actually Google it.
Yeah.
To find out, but I think it's a people problem more than the problem of the technology.
It's a very interesting discussion from an ethics standpoint and whatnot, but let's not. Yeah, we can talk about it, but I guess we have other things to talk about today.
Yeah, we'll talk about the sport which is so important for every Indian.
The Super Bowl,
NFL,
yes. Football, yeah. No, I just found it. I like to look at such things just because, like to gauge on how the advertising dollars are moving around. I was just.
So what's the Super Bowl? It's basically it's an American football game.
Yeah,
correct.
It's the biggest day in the calendar year.
So it's one match.
It's one game, and this time it was LA Rams playing New England Patriots, and New England Patriots obviously is very well known and very successful team.
Right.
With high profile guy like Tom Brady as a quarterback.
Yes.
Irrespective. But it's a highly watched event.
So for us, it's interesting because it's probably 100 million viewers. I think watch the Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
I think it's something after the Olympics or something, it's in the top 3 or 4 most broadcast events.
Yeah, it's highly watched in the North American circuit, and I think a lot of other countries have also started working. In fact, a couple of years back, I was reading this interview from the chairman of NFL, who was saying that we missed the bus on marketing the sport in India when the English Premier League was marketing football or soccer, and they think that we could have got that audience as well, because now the Indian community is very hooked on to English Premier League football. It's not an Indian sport as per se historically, culturally, but they feel like had we ventured earlier into the international market, they would have been hooked on to NFL. I think we lost out on we never thought that there'll be another country from a different cultural background so far away interested in a sport which is ours, but the English Premier League success shows otherwise. But anyway, let me ask you a question. How much do you think a 30-second ad slot would cost at this Super Bowl? Or like, I think Budweiser and Doritos sort of were the guys who paid up for a significant 30-second slot. Like, how much do you think at CBS network? How much do you think they charged?
Well, I guess if it's a 100 million viewer event, must be a couple of millions, right? What, 3-4 million?
Yeah, it's actually close enough, but it was 5.25 million. And it's gone up again, 5.25 million USD, and it's gone up from last year. Last year it was like low fives.
Yeah.
But
I recall, I think there's this very interesting, it's an old thing, but I think Apple, they came up with this ad in in 1984 when they came out with the first Macintosh. It's an award-winning ad. I would actually request listeners to check it out. Just search for Apple 1984. It actually has this Orwellian George Orwell theme from the book that Big Daddy, or so not Big Daddy. Actually, it's called Big Daddy, right? The Big Brother, sorry. Big Daddy obviously is, I think, some reality show, I guess.
Big Brother is a reality
Big Brother
show.
is a reality show. I think my terminologies are being confused, but So 1984, the novel by George Orwell, right, where it shows a totalitarian regime where someone is always watching you. So the ad was based on that theme.
Oh yes, I've seen it. Yes.
And that Macintosh is like the rebel product to break out, and it won a lot of awards. There was this athlete who was running, and in the end she throws like an axe to a screen with Big Brother looking at her, and that slot, the ad was shown during the Super Bowl.
All these ads premiere for Super Bowl, and it's interesting you say that, because 5.25 million is the cost they pay for a 30-second viewing time, but the actual cost to company for actually getting it is 25% higher, because they specially market that ad which is going to be aired. So they advertise an ad before it actually shows up on Super Bowl, and production cost and all that, but it actually jumps up, so you easily hit like 7 million for a ad project which is designed for a Super Bowl ad.
So this data, 5.2 million, this was for this year?
This year, that is last Sunday night or Monday morning for us, I guess.
But I was reading that the televised audience was lower apparently this year, right?
Yeah, I think so. I read that too. It was slightly lower, but it's clearly not reflecting in ad rates. And ad rates apparently could have been much higher. But an internal policy from the network sort of did not want to encourage medical marijuana ads. But they were apparently willing to pay much more.
I'm sure.
Most watched sporting event, throw in some medical marijuana ads.
It's very interesting when when kind of capitalism intertwines with the marijuana. They are so they are such different concepts, right? But I guess the impact of OTT platforms must be having a role to play. I'm sure when it comes to streaming numbers, that must be hitting record highs, right?
It's just that I don't know who's sort of at an OTT level. I know Amazon Prime streams Thursday night football. But I'm not entirely clear. I haven't actually looked it up. Maybe I should go.
I think CBS has a
platform?
CBS has a streaming platform.
So I would suspect those numbers are already captured in the audience number. If it's internal viewership.
Might be that.
So I don't know. It could be a mix of things. But no, it's broadcast television and live sports still attract so many advertising dollars. It's just a different thing that you go through massive ups and downs and spikes. So it's not normalized or a smooth curve like that. But real-time sports is North Star knows that, obviously.
And do we know who won, or does it matter?
And New England Patriots won convincingly. I think it was a very one-sided game. But
Right. Oh, really? Patriots won?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of looking at OTT platforms and data and telecom in general. I think plenty of things happening back home as well.
Yeah.
Another Super Bowl of sorts.
Yeah, and I like the segue. If I'm guessing where you're heading towards.
Yes, I'm heading towards our friends at RCom.
Yeah.
And how well they are doing in kind of bypassing the potential predatory arms of their creditors.
Yeah, why don't people pay their dues? It amazes me at whatever level. I mean, it's crazy now. Anyway, yeah, you want to.
I mean, before, I mean, telecom space in general, right, is so distressed in India right now. Like I was reading, I think Vodafone reported 5,000 crore of losses second quarter.
Widen, right?
Yeah.
Was it last night or this morning? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think yesterday.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
reading it. And I mean, obviously, Vodafone Idea is a result of consolidation post Jio.
Yeah.
RCom probably had the biggest head start in the telecom game, right? But probably they did not really evolve with the changing technology and miss the data
Yeah.
play, I guess.
And then your big brother showed up.
Then the big brother showed up and he kind of showed why he is the big brother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I find it very interesting. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's interesting or not, but like one of the things that you and I discussed about interim budget, I mean, and just setting the platform, was that we were really happy that there were no soft stance taken on credit for farmers.
Yeah.
Like I really personally like that because credit needs to be respected for long-term sustainability. You can't start giving free stuff to whoever it is. It doesn't matter what end of the spectrum
Because
you're on.
it's a trust-based system at the end of the day.
Exactly, and it's a slippery slope. Once you start doing that, it's very hard to crawl back up once you're in that hole. So if you've done that with farmers or whoever it is, I think you need to have a consistent stance when it comes to the other end of the spectrum, be it the big corporate guys. Now, I mean, Vodafone Idea wants to defer their 9,500 crore payment, which it owes the government for spectrum. RCom obviously owes money to the government. I think it's 2.5 or 3,000 crores, whatever it is. You can't, and they're both obviously lobbying towards getting extension or, you know, sort of trying to get a softer stance. Obviously, it's not going to be written off, but I think the approach towards it from the government standpoint has to be consistent, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you are, I always feel that, if you, I mean, it's pretty common. I don't know if you read, the middle local city sections of any newspapers, you'll often see like a small snippet from State Bank of India showing the picture of a guy who has defaulted on a home loan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, who might have like a payment delayed or something. And they put the picture of the guy, might be, it won't be very big ticket size, right?
Sure, yeah.
And, it's a way of putting you in a spot. That
Public shaming.
Public shaming, literally, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of compare it to the big guys, they kind of play the system, right?
Yeah, and it's the way it's, like you said, we've talked about how some of the big companies know how to use the system in their own defense.
Yeah.
And they're just very good at it. Be it from tweeting to PMO India or tweeting Mr. Modi or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
They've aced the optics game.
Yeah.
Dressing up in a certain way, talking in a polished way, they know how to get their way around.
So should I tag someone in my tweet when I don't want to pay my credit card bill next time?
Yeah. No, if Vodafone Idea get extension of their dues, I will not pay my telephone provider and say, you got a deferral, I want a deferral as well. Let's see what they say.
Yeah. It's a very it's a very sound thing that you've just said, because there's a double standard. That's I think the biggest structural weakness of insolvency and bankruptcy code as well. I know that there are almost 12-13 companies. And that's also unprecedented in our country that big groups like SR are under pressure, but there are always some holy cows in between, right? Like RCom got months of extension, and Ericsson has been, I think, after them. I think I don't know, it's around 500 or 600 crores, whatever is
550 crores, yeah.
550 crores.
They're still upset about it.
Yeah, so RCom, I think RCom's official version is that they sold fiber, but they're not able to sell the spectrum because of too much excessive litigation, blah blah blah, and hence
and excessive debt and revenue pressure.
Yeah,
when they cite,
which is self-created.
Yeah, you learn how to do it. It's your job.
Yeah. And they did that, and then after that they once they could not, they've already sold, I think they sold the fiber assets to Big Brother for like 2,000-3,000 crores.
Yeah, right? And they've sold some other I think assets to Canada's Brookfield Asset Management as well, private equity players.
Yeah,
so they have monetized some of their assets.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when Ericsson asked them to pay up, then they go, no, now we're going to go through bankruptcy.
Yeah, it's like you said, like Chapter 11 protection kind of, if we look at the North American version of it,
Yeah.
just to cut your losses and sort of take this easy route out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's legally, well, you can play that game. There's nothing wrong about it. I mean, ethics, forget about it.
Yeah, the problem is that, if there is, I get the idea behind unlimited liability. Obviously,
Yeah.
I buy that idea,
Yeah.
right? But if you have unlimited liability and your liabilities are only matched by your corporate assets, fine.
Yeah.
Then on the other end of the spectrum,
Yes. Wordplay.
Yes, wordplay. At the other end of the spectrum, corporate entitlement also needs to follow the same rules, right?
Yeah.
So then you don't touch corporate money for personal uses, right? I mean, it's not like you can have unlimited liability when you have to pay up, but when things are going well, do what you want.
Yeah, no, it's obviously, like you said, dichotomy, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that obviously made some news, and RCom was obviously very flashy, made for very flashy headlines, and the stock plunged 50%
Right.
after they sort of, initiated NCLT bankruptcy proceedings.
Right.
But obviously, like you said, it's entirely engineered, perhaps,
Yeah.
to not pay up.
Yeah.
And has Ericsson also like moved the Supreme? Like, have they?
I think Ericsson has appealed already against the NCLT
Yeah.
move that the Supreme Court asked you to shell out 550 crores to us of dues, and now that you have the cash, but you are not paying up, rather you're going to insolvency court.
Yeah.
So, because that kind of brings resolution professionals and a resolution plan that basically buys them more time.
Yeah.
Right, in a way. So I don't know. It's pretty. I mean, I'm pretty sure how this will kind of unravel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I saw the words in the newspaper where Ericsson said that this NCLT, and they use the words in quotes, dishonest intention.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's fairly thought out.
Yeah, because if you want to go to NCLT, you should have gone 17 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I mean, you
that
have
time
40,000 in debt and rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, you literally got a speeding ticket, and now you are running back. So it's a sad state of affairs, my friend, as they say. But I mean, if you kind of, I think obviously the RCom saga would continue the way it is. I think it's obviously a very interesting piece of news. Plenty of analysis is now coming out on how it was at some point of time a rock star of the telecom space.
Yeah.
But how they missed the technology game, didn't move from CDMA to GSM on time and whatever and whatnot. So I would actually invite the listeners to I think the Business Standard has published some really nice analysis on that. So that's something that they should kind of check out. And yeah, speaking of Business Standard also came out with the leaked jobs data, Sharad.
Yeah, it was very funny. There was exact numbers quoted, and the same sentence as non-public.
Yes.
So I'm like, how are exact numbers coming from non-public? I was thinking, and then there was obviously some seesaw in that, and I think you caught that and you wrote about it as well. Did you?
No, not really. I think I did catch that report.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for the benefit of listeners, we are not talking about the National Sample Survey jobs data for 2017-18 for India. It was a report which was, I think, supposed to come out in November, December last year.
Yeah.
Its release was delayed. Now, 2017-18 is a critical year because that's post-demonetization.
Correct.
And apparently the report's data got leaked through a Business Standard report. Business Standard article. I'm saying too much report. And the unemployment actually spiked to 6.1% post the year of demonetization. So demonetization came in November 16.
So that's, I think, a 45-year high or something.
45-year high, and it's been a kind of a mess there because this government has been accused many times that India is going through a period of jobless growth, right? And these numbers kind of confirm that to some extent. But immediately, as soon as BS came out with its leak, the government went very defensive. And you had, Niti Aayog saying that these are not the final numbers, and you have to wait for the final report. And then the NSC chairman, who looks at NSS data, he denied it. He said, no, these are the final numbers. That guy actually resigned in protest because the original report was not released on time.
Yeah.
So, which kind of puts the government in a spot. They say that, I mean, the conspiracy theory is that because in December you had assembly elections coming in, the report was deliberately delayed.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is true.
It's believable, I guess. But yeah, no, I don't know how much of it is true. But one thing that worries me is it's again, the optics of it are so bad for the international market.
Yeah.
Because we don't, ultimately, I hope that India doesn't take the shape and form of the sort of skepticism with which Chinese numbers are looked at.
Yeah.
Because that is, irrespective of how accurate Chinese numbers are for the next 5 years, there will always be some haircut given from investors.
Yeah.
Just because once you go down that road, it's very hard to crawl back up and build credibility.
I mean, to be honest, I think in the Indian context, we are, our statistical institutions are pretty robust.
Yeah, no, correct. Agreed.
But the problem I think comes in is that now economic data has become too politicized.
Yeah.
Right. And once it starts getting politicized, I mean, when the discussion around economic data starts moving to Twitter, it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
I think economic data is something which should only be released once it's final. I think it's all about communication.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, okay, fine. Even if the NSSO report is not out, why was there a leak?
Yeah.
There shouldn't have been a leak. If these numbers are not final, then why are they out?
Yeah.
Right. So you need to make sure that the data, once it's in the realm of public domain, because this is not like just some random number, it actually affects perception towards a market. It affects so many other things, So I think that communication is very essential. And the present dispensation, I mean, I frankly don't really buy the conspiracy theories of how data is being fudged. I don't think so. But I do think that there's obviously political pressure, right, to make sure that the story is as good as possible.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming some sort of technical or economic engineering is applied on off, but I don't think that's only applied in this dispensation. That's applied in every dispensation.
Every country, every industry. It's just like everyone tries to polish, right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're trying to impress, and you're trying to predict or give an outlook for the future.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do understand that there is often a lot of back solving, reverse engineering. But that's, I don't think that's. I mean, by that logic, every piece of data all over the world needs to be discounted to some extent, right? But I think where the present dispensation is not able to manage things well is that there are multiple chains of communication. Why is Niti Aayog commenting on NSS data? Why are people tweeting directly? Why isn't? I mean, I guess the present dispensation also kind of had the advantage of social media when it came to power.
Yeah.
But winning an election on social media is different from administration, right? I mean, in administration, you need to have very, very precise lines of communication. You need to have only specific people who should comment on things. If everybody starts giving their view, and because I remember once the Niti Aayog came out with all this, then I think PM's economic advisor, he made a statement that we will actually run another report from the NSSO. And we'll show that the data was actually good. If you say things like that in the public domain, obviously no wonder people are going to be skeptical about it, right?
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, jobs data has always been very controversial, right? Jobs data in India, I mean, like in the US, I mean, you have non-farm payroll, right?
Payroll, yeah.
It's a mature economy.
And very well respected and regarded, right? I mean,
and it captures the entire economy.
Yeah.
In India, most economic data will miss the informal sector one way or the other.
Yeah.
And you have NSSO, you have EPF, Employer Provident Fund, you have the Labor Bureau. All of them come with their own data, right? And none of them would actually
coincide or align
because all of them are looking at different sets and subsets.
Yeah.
Right. So it's anyways there are systemic issues in how the data is being measured, and that's also a function of where we are as a country, right? I mean, I'm sure 20 years or 30 years down the line that those structural issues would resolve on itself.
And it's just the communication medium, like sort of social media platforms, they just don't help at all, because then you're becoming more and more decentralized when it comes to such thing.
Yeah, but I mean, decentralization is good, but not in everything.
Not in everything. Like, you need clear-cut, aligned frameworks, right?
You do.
And to make sense of numbers, you need to know which source to go to. Right now, I don't even know which source to go to.
I mean, exactly. So, I mean, when there's such kind of structural noise, then, leaks and multiple chains of communication only hurt more, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happened with GDP. When the GDP numbers, they got rehashed, it was a standard rehash. It happens once in every 5 years. There's nothing very exceptional about it.
But it became a massive...
It became a massive political issue. Why? Because there were some half-baked numbers apparently which were released in between, which showed one perspective, and then the final numbers showed another perspective. So people were like, okay, what one? Those half-baked numbers should not have been out then.
Yeah.
Right. And but I think that's the problem, right? I mean, it always becomes like an NDA versus UPA issue now. I mean, what happened during those 4 years? I mean, I generally don't feel that the government can be given credit for everything that goes right, and they also cannot be blamed for everything that goes wrong.
No, I agree. It's just a narrative that sells in the media.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to hear a versus B kind of story.
Yeah.
And you take camps, you take sides, and then it becomes exciting, I guess, for a lot of people. So everything has now become very bipolar. Right. Every issue is either see people asking questions also like, are you a BJP guy or are you a Congress guy?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, if you are, and that's a difficult question to answer, if you are economically right of center and say socially left of center.
Yeah.
Right. And then where you are, you're nowhere.
There is nothing that offers that.
Yeah, there's nothing that offers that. Exactly. I mean, then you become a de facto other side person, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a strange time, my friend.
Yeah. And Nikhil, like, I think this would be interesting right now. I'm just getting alert on my phone about the RBI meeting that had happened, and they've made an interest rate announcement. Do you want to take a stab at what perhaps has taken place?
Oh, is it a rate cut? It's a rate cut?
Absolutely, man.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to take a guess on by how many basis points? This is fairly easy though.
25?
Yeah, standard protocol, right? So there is a 25 basis point rate cut.
Nice. Let me open the thing.
Yeah, why don't you open up? Meanwhile, I can just talk to our listeners that we are streaming. It's 11:45 right now, 11:45 a.m. and we've just heard about a rate cut, which was widely speculated, and Nikhil and I have been obviously talking about it, and we've had views on it. So while Nikhil is opening up the press release, yes, there is a 25 basis point interest rate cut.
Yeah, it's now down from 6.5% to 6.25 with immediate effect, repo rate.
Yeah. What do you think about it? This is a U-turn?
Well, it's. I think the commentators were expecting it.
Yeah,
they were kind of. I mean, it's actually till yesterday. I thought that the broad consensus is in favor of a rate cut.
Yeah,
which I think me and you we buy.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, by the consensus, not by the idea.
The fact that it will happen.
Yeah. And then I think today in the morning there was this Bloomberg, standard economist survey where they looked at 43 economists, out of which 32 said it's going to be a hold.
Yeah.
So
it's out of consensus then.
Yeah, it's out of consensus, at least from a Bloomberg perspective. Yeah. Let me just see if they have changed the view as well, because I remember last time they had said it's a calibrated tightening.
From neutral, right?
Yeah, so it's already calibrated tightening. I just want to check if they've already moved it to neutral or positive. I don't know.
They've got to move it to neutral if they're doing a rate cut. Yeah,
they've moved it from calibrated tightening to neutral. Yeah. And it's. I mean, it kind of. I think the December inflation data was probably the first sign it was at an 18-month low.
Yeah.
In spite of all moves. To kind of keep it upward swinging.
And was it within the 4 ± 2 bracket though?
Yeah, it was I think around 2-ish%. I think the headline number was off the RBI's threshold.
Okay.
So a rate cut was naturally expected as a result. But obviously, if you look at the headline inflation, it comprises of core inflation, which excludes food and fuel and other stuff, right? And the core inflation was actually at 5.7%. So, that was definitely within the RBI's range. So, I mean, just to kind of give a sense to the listeners, effectively the logic behind rate cuts linkage to inflation as per the flexible inflation targeting mechanism is that RBI tracks headline inflation as soon as it hits outside the 4 ± 2% range. If it has gone too high, that obviously calls for a rate increase.
Yeah.
And if it has gone too low, then it calls for a rate cut. The idea being that if inflation is too low, then a rate cut would basically bring in liquidity in the system and put inflation back on track. Now, this obviously is sounds fair, sounds logical, but inflation is a funny beast because it can be driven both by demand and supply side shocks, right? So if it's a demand-driven inflation, if it is that case, then when I say demand-driven inflation, I mean that the demand is just too low, so the prices are not picking up. In that case, a rate cut makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and also let's look at the non-economic or optics side of this. This is the first meeting chaired by the new RBI governor, Shaktikant Das, as well, right?
Yes.
That's one, and this is the first time they've, I think, cut it since 2017 August.
Yeah.
So it is a somewhat of a reversal.
Yeah, it shows a flip-off viewpoint.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, you and I can debate on how much impact or influence there is from the center.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the narrative seems to be very intuitive.
I mean, it's kind of fitting in well, right?
Yeah.
You had a new Urjit Patel was obviously being very conservative on this front, and he pretty much was, I don't know, was he eased out or but he left, fine.
Yeah.
And then you had a career bureaucrat take his place, and all the bones of contention with the RBI within the next couple of weeks started getting resolved. Be it surplus, be it the interim dividend. So RBI has been much more conducive to the finance ministry lately, and I think with a couple of months before the elections, and the government literally asking all regulators to release more surplus back to manage the deficit.
Yeah, and PSUs giving by offering dividends and whatnot.
PSUs
right?
are offering dividends. Basically, the government wants a big war chest of spending before the elections, I guess.
Yeah.
Very cynical way, but I think it's a real way of looking at things.
And I guess you can justify that by saying that sort of GDP growth forecast also were sort of cut from 7.4 to 7.2.
Yeah.
So maybe a rate cut stimulates that and sort of reverses that.
I mean, but I think the GDP numbers were again revised up as well, if I recall.
For the last year though, right?
Yeah. So I think here, but yeah, I mean, the problem here is that because the core inflation was still strong.
So do you think they're changing a stance on targeting core versus headline?
I don't think so. I mean, it's going to. I mean, the framework hasn't officially changed.
Yeah.
But you can argue both ways, right? Because it's very difficult to argue whether inflation is supply driven or demand driven.
You can't.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like because but the main idea is that if core inflation is still up, that means if you look at if you remove the effects of food and fuel, out of which food is especially supply shock driven, things are not that breezy, right? So that kind of goes against the thesis of a rate cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think RBI has bitten the bullet there.
Yeah, and let's see how what happens.
I mean, I would be very surprised if Shaktikant Das would have, kind of said that, okay, I need to show my, independence from the government and deliberately come out with a rate hold.
Yeah.
Just to make a point. I think he's been brought for a reason.
Yeah.
So
apparently it was voted up 4-2 in terms of rate cut.
Yeah.
I think Viral Acharya was one of those on the two side of not on sort of promoting a rate hold.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll read more and get more details, but I think it was a interesting take on our podcast today to actually absorb some stuff that's coming out as we speak right now.
I can definitely forecast a few things in the next 2 to 3 days. Obviously, Sensex is going to go up, Nifty is going to go up.
Yeah.
You'll see some positive news coverage around this.
Yeah.
And then I think probably 2 or 3 weeks later there will be some news flow on FDI and FII outflows to the US.
Yeah.
So I think that at least
we've seen this movie before.
We've seen this movie before, so we can at least point towards that. And yeah, it's been a hell of a podcast today, Sharad.
Thoroughly enjoyed it as always.
Yeah, and hopefully our listeners would pitch in with their feedback, their comments. They're always welcome through whichever way. You can obviously rate our podcast. You can drop a comment. You can email to us. I think we're all in for hearing things both good and bad about the podcast to make it better. And yeah, with that, I think we can sign off. This is Nikhil
And this is Sharad.
signing off.